as Fang Chen's lips parted slightly, ready to activate the gourd treasure. The Black Sun King's heart jolted with alarm, and he hastily shouted, "Wang Chengxiao, if I die, Lu Zhu will perish with me." From the central star on his forehead, a wisp of soul from Lu Zhu flickered and vanished. Hong Xiu's expression shifted abruptly as she blurted out, "Lu Zhu is under his control." For Lu Zhu and her were spiritually linked. If Lu Zhu dies, she might very well die too. Fang Chen's face remained unchanged as he coldly said, "What does Lu Zhu's life or death have to do with me? She is your subordinate, and she even came to taking great prefecture to hunt me down. Her death would be best." Seeing his determination, the Black Sun King instead calmed down. He pointed at the origin star on his forehead and said grimly, "You didn't think I trusted Lu Zhu completely, did you? That wretch dared to defy my orders for your sake, tricking me with a fake head of the heart, Sin Venerable. And she even helped you against the form Giant King. The most damnable thing is that she once truly wanted to become your wife." By the last sentence, the Black Sun King's teeth were grinding audibly. Fang Chen's expression changed slightly. So after Lu Zhu descended to the mortal realm, the Black Sun King had used foresight on her, and knew her key actions like the back of his hand. Fang Chen said in a deep voice, "How is Lu Zhu now?" With the Black Sun King's brutality, would he not have tortured or even killed Lu Zhu? The Black Sun King let out a grim sneer. "What, feeling pained? You should be thankful that you helped her advance to the 3 round Asura King realm, giving her some use. Otherwise, by the time she returned to the royal court, she would have been minced meat." Fang Chen let out a slight breath of relief. At present, it seemed Lu Zhu was at least still alive. He couldn't help but weigh the options rapidly in his mind. If he forcibly captured the Black Sun King now, the latter would definitely fight to the death and kill Lu Zhu. And with Lu Zhu dead, Hong Xiu would likely perish as well. By then, they would only be left with the crippled Fang Mountain first, rank Pavilion Master. How could they then fight the Netherworld King? It could very well capsize their boat in a gutter. But Fang Chen absolutely could not show too much concern for Lu Zhu, or he would be led by the nose. He tightly gripped the gourd, a flicker of pain passing through his eyes, and said deeply, "Too many have already died in this war in the Central Plains. If her death can take you a 5-star Giant King with her, then it is worth it." The Black Sun King's heart pounded fiercely. This was exactly what he feared. If Fang Chen truly didn't care about Lu Zhu, his threat would be meaningless. Without the slightest hesitation, he decisively teleported upward toward the sky, connecting Black Pillar. At the same moment, the Netherworld King also decisively teleported away the instant he moved. Since Fang Chen had unleashed such a killer weapon, he had to catch at least one. If the Black Sun King escaped, he could only capture the Netherworld King. With a sharp whoosh, 2 figures nearly collided at the sky-connecting Black Pillar before both teleported upward in unison. The Black Sun King's heart leaped with fear as he watched the orange mist still flickering on his body, anxiety gnawing at him. If this continued, he was doomed to die. In a moment of crisis, he suddenly caught sight of the Netherworld King, whose expression was relatively composed. A surge of intense unwillingness welled up in his heart. Why was the Netherworld King born in the Central Imperial Court, able to command the Central Ninth Army, and even have the chance to advance to Giant Emperor, while he himself was assigned to the remote Black Sun Royal Court, with no hope of ever rising? And now he was locked on by Fang Chen, about to die. Why? A surge of violent malice erupted from his heart, instantly giving rise to a cold, ruthless thought. Without warning, he struck violently. At close range, he slammed a fist into the star on the Netherworld King's forehead. The Netherworld King, caught off guard and in the narrow passage of the sky-connecting Black Pillar, had no way to dodge. His forehead took a heavy blow, and several stars cracked with fine fissures on the spot. Black Sun King, the Netherworld King, instantly understood what the other intended and couldn't help but roar in a low, angry voice. He flipped his palm and also produced a bone imbued with curse power. If the remote Black Sun Royal Court had such a treasure, it stood to reason that a king from the Central Tribe would not be without one. But the Black Sun King had anticipated this. Opening his mouth, a long tongue shot out like a rope, wrapping around the Netherworld King's arm and ripping it off completely. Next, he raised a foot and stomped viciously on the Netherworld King. With a muffled tearing sound, the Netherworld King lost an arm, and his body plummeted rapidly toward the Central Plains, Earth. He bellowed furiously, "Black Sun King, You have repeatedly betrayed the giant race. I cannot let you live." At that moment, the Black Sun King's voice came from the sky connecting Black Pillar. "Wang Chengxiao, the Netherworld King, has several great pills refined by the mediocre sages of the Central Plains that can elevate one's spiritualization realm. He plans to use them to buy the loyalty of the Central Plains spiritualization cultivators. Capture him, and those great pills will be yours." Fang Chen's eyes showed astonishment. There actually existed great pills that could directly cause a breakthrough in the spiritualization realm. Even someone as well connected as True Word Venerable had to diligently raise spirit fish, with the time required measured in years. Heart Demon Venerable and Evil Crow Venerable had been stuck at the spiritualization realm for at least decades, and until now, they hadn't even encountered an opportunity for a breakthrough. Evil Crow Venerable, in order to restore his domain, had even resorted to various means, threatening True Word Venerable into dual cultivation with him. The thought of breaking through was something he didn't even dare to entertain. The difficulty of advancing in the spiritualization realm was comparable to breaking through to nascent soul on the mainland back then, truly hellish difficulty. The preciousness of these great pills before him was self-evident. Without further hesitation, Fang Chen decisively changed targets. Netherworld King of the Southern Heaven Realm. The orange chains that had been locked onto the Black Sun King were instantly released and instead wrapped around the Netherworld King. With just a single activation from Fang Chen, he could be drawn into the gourd. Fang Chen barked sharply, hand over those great pills. The Netherworld King looked up coldly at the sky, his eyes filled with icy chill. The Black Sun King was clearly intent on sending him to his death. He withdrew his gaze and calmly looked at Fang Chen, showing no signs of panic. Taking a bulging small pouch from his waist, he said flatly, "Not all giant kings are as cowardly and afraid of death as the Black Sun King. Whether I give you these great pills or not, I am doomed to die. Why should I let you benefit?" As his words fell, his 5 fingers suddenly clenched. With a muffled PFFT, the great pills inside the pouch were instantly crushed to powder. Not only did Fang Chen and the human spell cultivators like Heart Demon Venerable feel a pang of regret, but even Hongxiu and the Fang Mountain First Rank Pavilion Master showed expressions of pity. Hongxiu shook her head regretfully and said, "The opportunity for the Central Plains to break through the spiritualization realm comes once in a millennium. Only in the heavenly realm, with abundant resources, is there a chance to refine such great pills." Seeing their regretful expressions, the Netherworld King expressionlessly tossed aside the pouch and said openly, "Victory is king, defeat is bandit. If you want to capture me, just do it." Who would have thought that Fang Chen would ignore him for the moment? Instead, he drew the pouch through the air into his hand, an excited look appearing on his face. The Netherworld King frowned slightly and said, "Isn't it true that once a human spirit pill is shattered, its medicinal power is completely lost? Could it be that it can still be salvaged?" Under his watchful eyes, Fang Chen brought out a small cauldron carved with landscape patterns. Then he threw the entire pouch, along with the powder inside, into it, and activated the small cauldron. After 10 breaths, as a grinding sound like broken glass being rubbed together gradually arose, the deflated pouch actually slowly began to bulge again. When it stopped changing, Fang Chen took out the small pouch and carefully extracted 6 spirit pills from inside. Each one bore 7 pill veins. These were actually 7 Thrank Great Pills. Currently, the strongest Soul Master in the Central Plains was only a 7th Tar Soul Master, and the great pills they could refine were only 7 Thrank. According to soul levels, a 7th Tar Soul Master was at least at the Sage Realm. Only such existences could successfully refine 7 Thrank Great Pills. They are low-grade spirit pills, suitable for breaking through from the first decline to the second decline of the Heavenly Man. Fang Chen was overjoyed. Just after breaking through to the first decline, an opportunity for a breakthrough came knocking on his door. "This actually works," the Netherworld King gritted his teeth slightly. In the end, it still benefited Fang Chen. Fang Chen did not keep them for himself alone. In this battle, the survival of taking Great Prefecture was largely thanks to the reinforcements from the 3 provinces. Without their full support, the spiritualization cultivators of taking Great Prefecture would have been completely wiped out long ago. "Deputy Palace Master Yu, these 2 are for you." He decisively tossed her 2 great pills. Dan Province had sent 4 venerables, and now only 2 remained. Deputy Palace Master Yu was overwhelmed by the favor and quickly said, "Fellow Taoist Fang, I cannot accept this. These pills are far too precious." Even being in Dan Province, she had never had the chance to obtain such great pills that could break through the spiritualization realm. Fang Chen declared, "Help my Tai Kang great state weather this tribulation, and I shall ensure you are not left to suffer loss." Subsequently, he tossed one each to Venerable Red Dust and Venerable Purple Forbidden. Although Venerable Red Dust was already in the second decline of heaven and man and had no use for it, such a tremendous opportunity was more than enough for her to exchange for startling resources. Venerable Purple Forbidden needed no further words. His divine ring had shattered, and his heaven-man decline tribulation was imminent. This grand pill was a literal lifesaver. Then, in one smooth motion, Fang Chen casually tossed a precious grand pill to the sole surviving divine transformation Venerable of divine armament state. Thus, of the 6 spirit pills, only one remained. Fang Chen's gaze flickered as he swept over the several divine transformation cultivators of Tai Kang great state. Among him, Venerable Heart Demon, Fa Yin, and Asura King Minjai. Fa Yin mainly cultivated the Buddhist path, so the spirit pill was useless to him in the first place, while Asura King Minjai needed it even less. Yet even so, this sole remaining spirit pill was nowhere near enough to split between Fang Chen and Venerable Heart Demon. At that moment, King Netherworld chuckled and said, "Only one left, just cleave it into, 1/2 for each." Oh. Those words actually gave Fang Chen an idea. His heart stirred slightly, and that enigmatic, unfathomable dog bowl silently materialized within the wide sleeve of his robe. Then, without batting an eyelid, he tossed the last grand pill inside. A crisp, ringing clatter of collisions sounded, followed immediately by a deep, dark radiance emanating from the dog bowl. When the dark glow slowly subsided, Fang Chen reached into the dog bowl and actually pulled out 2 grand pills identical in appearance and medicinal potency. Fang Chen clicked his tongue inwardly. This dog bowl truly possessed the heaven-defying miraculous effect of turning one into 2. Everyone present was dumbstruck on the spot, each one staring with eyes bulging wide. Venerable Heart Demon forcefully blinked his eyes and exclaimed in shock and doubt, "Is this some kind of magic trick?" Even the highly experienced Hong Xiu, the Lord of the Fang Chen First, Frank Pavilion, and King Netherworld all revealed deep astonishment and suspicion in their eyes. How is this possible? This utterly defies common sense and violates the very laws of heaven and earth. They all turned their gazes toward Fang Chen's sleeve, wanting to see what was there, but Fang Chen had already, without any sign, stowed the dog bowl back into the heavenly thunderstone. He smilingly handed one of the grand pills to Venerable Heart Demon and said in a calm tone, "After 3 consecutive major battles, you have worked hard." Venerable Heart Demon cradled the grand pill, his entire demeanor dazed, and murmured, "The opportunity to reach the second decline of heaven and man. Just obtained like this." He thought of Venerable Evil Crow and could not help but sigh deeply. "Evil Crow, oh Evil Crow, you truly had water in your brain to choose to betray Fang Chen. The very thing you dreamed of was actually on Fang Chen." If Venerable Evil Crow had been a little more resolute back then and followed Fang Chen with undivided loyalty, what awaited him would have been an entirely different fate. But then again, in the end, character determines destiny. Given Evil Crow's nature, even if time were reversed, he would probably still make that choice to betray. Fang Chen put away his own grand pill, then flipped his hand and brought out a Hell Abyss crystal. He casually tossed it to Asura King Minjai and said, "This battle also owed much to your efforts." Asura King Minjai had joined the Battle of the Fire Worship sect halfway through, then immediately threw himself into the great battle at the far east. The meritorious service he rendered was indeed considerable, fully worthy of a Hell Abyss crystal. "What is this?" Asura King Minj. I caught it instinctively, staring at the treasure in his hands for a long while before suddenly realizing what it was. He was utterly shocked, his voice even changing pitch. Could this be the sacred relic our Asura Kings used to break through realms, the Hell Abyss crystal? The palm holding the Hell Abyss crystal trembled so violently that he nearly dropped that priceless treasure to the ground. Having cultivated to become a Wang, Crown Asura King in this lifetime, he had already been completely content. He never imagined that today he would actually obtain this heaven-defying grand opportunity for another sublimation. It seemed that this time, sticking closely to Fang Chen without running away again was simply the wisest decision of his life. His eyes rolled slyly as he leaned in and said, "Fellow Taoist Fang, do you want a wife? In my Black Cloud stronghold, there is a..." Before he could finish, Hong Xiu beside him cast a sidelong glance at him and interrupted dismissively, "He has plenty of wives. No shortage." Fang Chen gave an awkward, sheepish smile and hurriedly cupped his hands toward Hong Xiu in thanks, this time my sincere gratitude to Fairy Hong Xiu for her all-out assistance. Please allow me to give you a hell abyss crystal as well. According to the original plan, they only needed Hunksyu to stall the Black Sun King. But what Hunksyu did far exceeded that agreement. Had she not promptly summoned reinforcements, the forces of Tai Kang Great State would likely have been utterly annihilated. Hunksyu, however, waved her hand and said, I am a 5, crown us you're a king, this item is of no further use to me. Fang Chen then said, what about your clansmen? Hunksyu let out a soft laugh, her tone carrying an indecipherable emotion. She moved, rising into the air. I am going to the Black Sun Royal Court to look. If the Black Sun King kills Green Pearl in a fit of rage, that would be troublesome. Fang Chen's heart tightened, and he immediately said, if there is any news, you must inform me immediately through the moon mirror. Hunksyu nodded. She glanced down at the firmly bound King Netherworld and the battlefield littered with the corpses of giant kings, a complex expression flickering in her eyes. She slowly said, I hope that harmony between you and me can be maintained forever. Before her words faded, she turned and shot into the towering black pillar that reached the heavens. Fang Chen was slightly stunned. Why would Hunksyu say such a thing? Could it be that they might become enemies in the future? Shaking his head, he thought no more of it. Because there was still one most important person left unaddressed. It was none other than King Netherworld. Fang Chen looked at King Netherworld, whose face was thoroughly calm, and said in a deep voice, you are quite composed, truly looking as if you fear neither life nor death. You and Princess Purple Crimson truly stand out like cranes among chickens among the ancient giant race. Could it be that, like Princess Purple Crimson, you also have some extraordinary origin? It should be known that the moment Princess Purple Crimson was born, she caused the deaths of an entire roomful of giant kings, instantly aged her mother, who was already a 5-star giant king, and caused her father, the giant emperor, to drop an entire realm. Surely this King Netherworld before him couldn't also be so extraordinary. King Netherworld merely let out a cold snort, his expression disdainful, and kept his mouth tightly shut. Fang Chen did not force him to answer. Instead, he flipped his hand and produced that spatial mirror. Inside the mirror, Princess Purple Crimson, although unable to see with her own eyes earlier, had clearly heard everything that transpired. She gazed at King Netherworld and sighed, Netherworld, you should not have come to rescue me. This rescue not only failed, but also got him captured as well. King Netherworld replied indifferently, do not worry, since I have been defeated, your father will naturally take action himself. He then turned to Fang Chen and said coldly, good luck to you, rising star of the human race. The Central Tribe Emperor will never let you go. Fang Chen remained expressionless, pressed his finger steadily onto the orange area of the primordial heaven, imprisoning Gourd, and responded flatly, thanks for the warning. Contain. With a whoosh, a wisp of orange mist swiftly coiled around King Netherworld and dragged him violently into the gourd. Princess Purple Crimson in the mirror could no longer maintain her composure. Her face revealed sorrow as she urgently asked, is he dead? Fang Chen carefully gauged her expression and said, no. However, if I shake it a few times, he will dissolve into bloody water. Only then did Princess Purple Crimson barely rally a bit of spirit. Her lips moved as if to speak, but then hesitated. Finally, she spoke with great difficulty. Although I know my request carries no weight, I still beg you do not kill him. Princess Purple Crimson never easily displayed emotion before any giant, but King Netherworld was the sole exception. A sudden smile appeared on Fang Chen's face, and he agreed readily, very well.
Him?
Princess Purple Crimson stared at Fang Chen in shock, her face full of suspicion as she demanded, you agree not to kill him. How is that possible? She knew Fang Chen too well. This fellow hated the giant race to the marrow of his bones and would never show the slightest mercy, much less agree to her plea. Fang Chen spoke with an air of complete composure. Besides being the vice pavilion master of the Heaven's Secrets Pavilion, I hold another identity, that of a guest elder of the Fox. Njishan first rank pavilion, known as the Tyrant, so I am also a businessman. Princess Zhejiang instantly understood, staring at him warily and asked, you want to make a deal with me, but I have nothing left worth trading. She felt a flicker of worry. Fang Chen was forcing her to betray the core secrets of the ancient giants. But to her utter astonishment, Fang Chen actually tossed her a set of paper and brush, saying, I will recite, you will write. After you finish writing, I will spare the Netherworld King's life. Just that simple. Princess Zhejiang's heart was full of doubt. Fang Chen could never be so kind as to give her an easy way out. Yet she truly could not fathom what trap could lie in merely copying Fang Chen's words once. Unable to see through the mystery, she gritted her teeth and agreed. Fine, you speak, I'll write. Fang Chen put his hands behind his back and slowly recited, Brother Fang Chen, upon reading this letter, it is as if we meet. The moment Princess Zhejiang heard those opening 4 words, her brow twitched sharply. Fang, what brother? She yearned to flay Fang Chen's skin and scatter his ashes, and now she was expected to call him brother. She hesitated briefly, secretly clenched her jaw, suppressed the intense revulsion in her heart, and lifted the brush to begin writing. Fang Chen continued, because I have frequently sent you intelligence from the heavenly realm, the Imperial Father has already grown suspicious of me. I plan within a few days to personally go to the Middle Earth to seek refuge with you. Please, brother Fang Chen, do not despise me. Written in my own hand, Zhejiang. Princess Zhejiang slowly set down the brush, already catching a glimpse of his scheme. She gave a cold laugh and said, You want to drive a wedge between me and the ancient giants, don't you? To be honest, this ploy is a bit childish. It doesn't seem like your caliber. She secretly guessed that Fang Chen intended to send this letter to her clansmen, making them mistakenly believe that Princess Zhejiang had long ago betrayed the giant race, thereby successfully sowing discord. But such a crude trick. How could those giants possibly believe it? She had been forcibly abducted by Fang Chen right in front of the 5-star Giant King from any angle that had nothing to do with the word betrayal. Fang Chen reached out and picked up the paper, gazing at the rows of elegant, beautiful hellish script, and sincerely praised, as expected of the scholarly Princess Zhejiang, your handwriting is truly excellent. However, you have probably misunderstood. This letter is not for the giants to see, but for you yourself. Princess Zhejiang furrowed her brows tightly, her vertical eye filled with bewilderment, staring dead at Fang Chen. What exactly are you playing at? Fang Chen gently blew the ink dry on the paper, then grabbed a handful of yellow earth and evenly smeared it over, making it appear quite old and worn. Only after doing all this did he nod in satisfaction. Only then did he put away the letter, his gaze slowly turning to Princess Zhejiang, his eyes suddenly becoming deep and unfathomable. Do you still remember during the great hunt, that speech you gave about cattle and sheep? Princess Zhejiang's face was expressionless, and she said flatly, What need is there to discuss? That is simply the natural order of heaven. Her voice was utterly placid, as if stating the most ordinary thing. The ancient giants eating you humans is no different from you humans eating cattle and sheep. This is the heavenly way's nature. After listening, Fang Chen actually nodded, the corner of his mouth pulling into an indifferent smile. Just remember that. His smile did not fade, but his tone suddenly turned cold. Then today, I will fulfill that day's promise and let you personally experience the taste of being cattle and sheep. Upon hearing this, Princess Zhejiang merely chuckled scornfully and shook her head. So many giants have died. Have you seen me show even a trace of grief? Fang Chen suddenly laughed, a smile brimming with indescribable meaning. What if those giants die by your own hands? Princess Zhejiang's enormous eyes suddenly constricted. Ancient giants dying on the battlefield she would not grieve, for that was the fate of the giant race. But to make her slaughter her own kin. She absolutely could not do that. Rest assured, I am not the Black Sun King. I would never commit the act of murdering my own people. Princess Zhejiang's voice remained calm, carrying a hint of certainty. Yet Fang Chen unhurriedly took out a jade talisman. The moment the jade talisman appeared, a terrifying pressure belonging to the 4-crown Asura King permeated the air. That was precisely the domain bestowed upon him by Hunxu back then, its sole function being to erase a person's memories. Fang Chen toyed with the jade talisman and said softly, No, you will. You, having forgotten all your past, will be my dear little sister coming to seek refuge with me. And those dead giant kings, they all came to hunt you down. You will fight alongside me, slaying giants together. Princess Zhejiang's gaze locked dead on that jade talisman. In an instant, she understood everything. That letter was prepared precisely to make her, once her memory was gone, completely believe in Fang Chen. It was a letter, written in her own hand, the handwriting distinguishable only by herself. Her with no memories would find it extremely easy to believe the contents of the letter and truly regard Fang Chen as the person she sought refuge with. She clenched her fist as a bone, chilling cold rose from the depths of her heart. Hiss. Fang Chen's eyes turned completely cold, his voice icy. You, this time Giant King, are a born slaughterer. I believe you will personally kill many, many giants. He recalled how difficult it had been when he first captured Princess Zhejiang. He had been forced to exhaust her very origin before barely subduing her. If he threw her onto the battlefield, her destructive power would be absolutely terrifying. From the very beginning, when he first stepped onto the battlefield, Fang Chen had toyed with this idea. But unfortunately, at that time, his strength was too low. Any mistake would not only fail to suppress her, but would instead harm his own people. But now he had the absolute confidence to completely control this woman. He would turn this impending decisive battle into an Asura battlefield where she slaughtered her own kind. Then, just like the living beings of the taking great continent, just like the cattle and sheep she had scornfully dismissed, she would die a miserable death under the siege of her own clansmen. This was the fate Fang Chen had meticulously prepared for her. Princess Zhejiang fiercely clenched her fists, eyes splitting with rage, and shouted fiercely, "Fang Chen, kill me." She would rather die at once than stain her hands with the blood of her clansmen. Fang Chen expressionlessly activated the Jade Talisman, forcefully unleashing its innate power. A dark light instantly enveloped Princess Zhejiang and began tyrannically erasing her memories. An indescribable agony drove Princess Zhejiang into a frenzied struggle. She punched the spatial mirror with all her might, blow after blow, trying to escape to freedom. But all this was utterly futile. She could clearly feel her memories being rapidly wiped away. Princess Zhejiang pounded the mirror surface in fury, letting out a desperate roar. "No, I don't want to kill my own people. Fang Chen, you are a demon. You are the true demon." Yet within Fang Chen's mind, a series of tragic and heroic scenes surfaced. They were the images of nascent soul cultivators from taking great continent falling like moths to a flame, dying to protect their homeland. He recalled the heavenly listening bodhisattva feeding herself to demons and Jian Lanfang's unfinished ambitions. A flash of bone, chilling cold, crossed his eyes. If becoming a demon can bring vengeance for those who died so tragically, then I would rather become a demon. Amid waves of furious screams, Princess Zhejiang's resistance gradually subsided, and her eyes rapidly turned blank and lifeless. Soon, she looked around with a blank face like a newborn baby, filled with curiosity about everything. Fang Chen waved his hand and released her. The coldness on his face receded like the tide, replaced by a gentle smile. "Zhejiang, are your injuries healed?" Princess Zhejiang looked at Fang Chen in astonishment, opened her mouth, and only after a long while did she regain the ability to speak. Who am I?" Fang Chen said softly, "I am Fang Chen. You are Princess Zhejiang of the Heavenly Realm. We met in the Heavenly Realms." He slowly spun a story. "These giant kings on the ground all came to hunt you down. You were injured, and that is why you lost your memory." Princess Zhejiang slightly furrowed her brows and remained silent. A clever person, even having lost their memory, will retain sufficient vigilance. She still held reservations about what Fang Chen said. Fang Chen timely took out the letter. "This is the distress letter you once wrote to me." Princess Zhejiang took the letter and calmly read it through. "Any more questions?" Fang Chen asked. Princess Zhejiang suddenly beamed a smile and said cheerfully, "No more, brother Fang Chen. Thank you for saving me." Fang Chen also smiled and said, "You have helped me greatly as well. From now on, stay by my side." The violet imperial princess nodded her massive head. Yet her hand behind her back quietly traced a character on the ground in the air, then stealthily compared it with the handwriting on the letter. Just then, in the sky, a massive rift suddenly appeared. It was the terrifying fluctuations of the sage forcibly tearing open the world's barrier. Amidst the terrifying roar, the aged voice of the Grand Libationer boomed down, "Hunyuan Province is in urgent need. The giant armies from all routes of the Heaven Realm are converging on Hunyuan Province. The final battle is about to begin." Immediately after, a screen of light was projected over Take, in Great Province, displaying the real-time battle situations of each province. Except for Heaven Province, which remained unreachable and showed a blurry image, the situations of the other 8 provinces were all extremely clear. Among them, Taking Great Province, Great Wilderness Province, Dan Province, Divine Armament Province, and Holy Spirit Province had all achieved great victories. The invading anti-giants were all executed. Meanwhile, Hunyuan Province, 10,000 Demons Great Province, and Gixu Province were still locked in fierce battle. The 10,000 Demons Great Province was in a stalemate, and the situation was not critical. Gixu Province, aided by the Grand Libationer, now only had some remnant forces being surrounded and annihilated, with victory in sight. It is worth mentioning that only the half of the continent where humans reside was fiercely resisting the ancient giants, whereas the other half of the continent belonging to Tianyi City was calm and peaceful, without any sign of ancient giant invasion. Those half-giants also showed no intention of going to assist the Starry Mountain, simply watching with indifference as the Starry Mountain fought the giants alone. Fang Chen gave a deep, penetrating glance toward the direction of Tianyi City, then hurriedly examined the situation in Hunyuan Province. One look was enough to shake everyone to the core. The flames of war in Hunyuan Province had spread to every corner. They had failed to hold off the initial assault, allowing the ancient giants to completely spread throughout the province. Through that image, Fang Chen could imagine how many innocents had died tragically in the ancient giants' hunt. Just like during the Heaven Realm's Great Hunt, when an Asura tribe was invaded by ancient giants. These beasts wouldn't even spare infants still in swaddling clothes. The heart demon Venerable sighed softly, his voice heavy. In the end, one province still fell. Bodhisattva Pingshan put his palms together, his eyes full of compassion. Amitabha. Even the Asura King Minjai mourned in silence. Having witnessed the tragic state of the Asura villages, he understood all too well what Hunyuan Province had gone through. That was undoubtedly a living hell on earth. Jiang Wu's voice trembled as he gritted his teeth. These demons. The divine steel behind him trembled from his intense emotions, emitting waves of potent misfortune. The Red Demon Grandmaster sighed slightly, his tone filled with desolation. Blame our generation, which exhausted the resources of the Central Plains, yet failed on the verge of success, bringing such calamity to future generations. Fang Chen stared at Hunyuan Province, an indescribable depression in his heart, as if boundless fury was churning in his chest, threatening to burst his body asunder. He suddenly clenched his fists and let out an earth-shaking roar. Ancient giants. Let's go to Hunyuan Province. Fight to the death with these beasts. Before his words faded, a powerful spatial fluctuation came from the direction of the Imperial Observatory. The province-level teleportation array leading to Hunyuan Province activated. The powerhouses from each province would all rush to Hunyuan Province to engage in the final decisive battle against the ancient giant army. Fang Chen's figure flickered, and with the teleportation, he shot toward the Imperial Observatory. Everyone followed closely. At this moment, the Violet Imperial Princess was comparing the letter with the many characters she had just written, murmuring softly, "The handwriting is indeed mine. But why would I betray the ancient giants and serve Big Brother Fang Chen?" After thinking, she quietly erased the characters on the ground, leaped up, and caught up with Fang Chen. Imperial Observatory. The teleportation arrays leading to the various sects were flickering rapidly. Batch after batch of nascent soul powerhouses from various sects poured out of the teleportation hall in a rush. They too had seen the Grand Libationer's notice and witnessed the hellish scene in Hunyuan Province. Without anyone summoning them, they all spontaneously gathered at the Imperial Observatory, resolutely setting out on the expedition to Hunyuan Province. Just then, a graceful figure in an emerald gauze dress approached Fang Chen from afar. It was Liu Raxu. The cloud garment immortal maiden studied Fang Chen's heavy expression and the guilt he couldn't conceal in his eyes. Her heart ached, and she silently embraced him. She leaned on his shoulder and said softly, "Husband, don't blame yourself. The fall of Hunyuan Province was not your fault. You were fighting desperately with that immaculate Grandmaster to save the Star Abyss Grandmaster. No one will blame you." Hearing these words, the self-blame in Fang Chen's heart not only did not lessen, but deepened. Why had Hunyuan Province fallen to such a state? A large part of the reason was precisely because the Grand Libationer had acted prematurely to save him, and as a result was locked onto by that Sun's giant emperor. Precisely because of this province didn't have the Grand Libationer wipe out most of its powerful enemies, unlike the other provinces. The Cloud Garment Immortal Maiden seemed to see through his thoughts and gently comforted him. "Fang Lang, you have already done enough for the Central Plains. You need not blame yourself so." As soon as her words ended, Liu Qingxian also rushed over, raising her hand and heavily patting his shoulder. She looked straight into Fang Chen's eyes and said firmly, "If not for you, our take in Great Province would have long followed in the footsteps of Hunyuan Province. And now, the location of this final battle would have been the very take in Great Province beneath our feet." "You have done nothing wrong." Yes, Fang Chen knew better than anyone that no one would blame him. But he himself could not forgive himself. He clenched his fists, allowing his nails to dig deep into his palms. If only his strength back then had been a little stronger, if he could have handled the Immaculate Grandmaster with his own ability, it would not have drawn the Grand Libationer's intervention. And Hunyuan Province would never have fallen to such a state today. As his heart was in torment, the Red Demon Grandmaster clasped his hands behind his back, let out a heavy snort, and said in a deep voice, "Boy, if you truly feel guilty toward Hunyuan Province, then go and fight." Go and slaughter those ancient giants completely, make them pay for Hunyuan province with their lives." These words were like a thunderclap. Fang Chen gritted his teeth fiercely. Yes, what was the use of self, pity, and remorse? What should be done was to make these damned ancient giants pay a bloody price. A boundless fighting spirit surged instantly from the depths of his heart. He gently released Liu Ruxu and looked around at the dense crowd of over 1,000 nascent soul powerhouses. These were already all the remaining nascent soul cultivators of taking Great Province. Many still bore ferocious scars that had not yet healed on their bodies. Fang Chen took a deep breath and said in a heavy voice, "All of you, go back. This battle, it is enough for us spirit transformation cultivators to go." As soon as his words fell, the Myriad Tribulations Palace Master suddenly stepped forward and declared resolutely, "Go. My Myriad Tribulations Holy Palace, all of us will go." His gaze blazed as he swept over his followers, and he said sternly, "The survival of the Central Plains is not just the concern of the Spirit Transformation Seniors, it is equally the concern of us nascent soul cultivators. Those of Myriad Tribulations Holy Palace, follow me." Before this roar had faded, the Taoist master of Three Pure Ones Mountain was already howling toward the sky. He looked at Fang Chen and said with a clear laugh, "Starfire Venerable, did our Three Pure Ones Mountain's performance in the battle of taking Great Province make you see us in a new light?" Without waiting for an answer, his tone suddenly soared, "But that is still not enough. Our Three Pure Ones Mountain will also charge into Hunyuan Province, so that you may know the true colors of our Three Pure Ones Mountain. Disciples of Three Pure Ones Mountain, march out with me." As if ignited by this atmosphere of fearless death, Feng Yuanzong of the Great Yin Sect also shouted hoarsely with reddened eyes, "Our Great Yin Sect has no cowards either. All of you bring your coffins, even if you die for me in Hunyuan Province. Let's go." In front of White Horse Temple, Abbot Puguang gazed at Bodhisattva Pingshan, his expression both sorrowful and smiling, and slowly said, "The heaven, listening Bodhisattva has a worthy successor. Our monastic unity now has no further worries." After speaking, he stepped forward and shouted in a voice like a bell, "Monks of White Horse Temple, follow this humble monk to destroy the demons. The Heavenly Secrets Pavilion, Fang Mountain First Grade Tower, Myriad Phenomena Void Realm." The remaining sects and the remaining nascent soul powerhouses of taking Great Province all now marched out with high spirits. Fang Chen stood rooted to the spot, gazing at the vast crowd that fearlessly rushed toward the final battle without fear of death. His blood surged in his chest, and his eyes instantly grew hot. He forcibly suppressed the burning current within him and let out a resounding roar. With such heroes in the Central Plains, why should we fear this battle cannot be won? Move. Campaign to Primeval Chaos. Eradicate the giants. Primeval Chaos Province Imperial Observatory. Of the province-level teleportation arrays connected to all regions, several were vibrating intensely without pause, emitting a piercing, blinding light. Wave after wave of powerhouses from various provinces rushed out at top speed, racing to provide aid. Warriors of Elixir Province advance towards the mortal cities in the south, slay any ancient giant on sight. Rescue the wounded with all your might. Troops of Divine Weapon Province march north. Where giants appear, kill them all. Brothers of Great Wilderness Province press westward, wipe out every last giant, leave no survivors. Amidst these earth-shaking commands, the forces of Grand Granary Province arrived right after. Vice Palace Master Yu, the Red Dust Venerable, the Purple Forbidden Venerable, and the Venerables of Divine Weapon Province each returned to their provincial contingents and led air armies away without a moment's hesitation. Fang Chen's sharp gaze swept over all sides as he swiftly ordered, "Several provinces have yet to arrive for support. Our Grand Granary Province boasts numerous divine transformation realm cultivators, so we must bear the burden now. We will split into 4 routes, clear out the war zones, and finally regroup at Sea of Literature Academy." Hearing this, the inner demon venerable beside him couldn't help but be dazed for a moment. Grand Granary Province boasts numerous divine transformation realm cultivators. This statement sounded so unfamiliar to his ears. But when he counted carefully, his heart jolted violently. Fang Chen himself, Pacifying Heaven Bodhisattva, Bright Knight Asura King, Calamity Divine Steel Jiang Wuya, Fang Mountain First Rank Tower Lord, Red Devil Venerable, plus Purple Sea Rimson Princess. A full 8 divine transformation realm cultivators. After a great battle, the number of divine transformation cultivators in Grand Granary Province had not decreased but instead surged dramatically. All of this was thanks to the selfless dedication of the Divine Transformation Venerables from Great Wilderness Province, Divine Weapon Province, and Elixir Province. Thus, no one begrudged Grand Granary Province bearing extra toil now. The inner demon Venerable immediately mustered his troops and declared loudly, Purple Crimson, Princess and I will lead the Tianji Pavilion and the Great Yin sect, pushing eastward. With a wave of his hand, he led the two contingents, sweeping forth like a raging torrent. The others also teamed up in pairs, each leading forces and boldly advancing towards different battle zones. In the end, only Red Devil Grand Venerable and Fang Mountain First-Rank Tower Lord remained, leading a host of nascent soul experts from various mid- and small-sized sects. Red Devil Grand Venerable clasped his hands behind his back and gazed at the land of primeval Chaos Province, his brow suddenly furrowing. Didn't you notice the abnormality in primeval Chaos Province? Beside him, Fang Mountain First-Rank Tower Lord, his hands tucked into his sleeves, narrowed his eyes, and carefully sensed the surroundings. He reached out and grabbed at the empty air, and a wisp of milky white Kai materialized vividly in his palm. Such dense righteous Kai, how could this poor Taoist fail to notice? His tone was filled with deep shock and suspicion. The righteous Kai in the air is so thick it's practically tangible. Even an ordinary mortal, with a wish paper in hand, could probably wish for a small fortune and see it come true. I recall that last time I visited, this place was quite normal. In just a single month, what on earth has happened in primeval Chaos Province? He turned to Red Devil Grand Venerable and said gravely, Senior, could it be that the Star Abyss Grand Venerable has broken through to the Sage Realm? Red Devil Grand Venerable stared into the distance, his expression growing increasingly solemn. After a long while, he slowly shook his head and said in a deep voice, Even the Sage Realm cannot fill an entire province with such dense righteous Kai. If someone intends to exploit this righteous Kai for nefarious schemes, it would be a calamity of heaven, rending proportions. His gaze abruptly sharpened. What exactly is this Star Abyss Grand Venerable plotting? Let's go. When we arrive at Sea of Literature Academy, we'll question him face to face. Clear Spirit Mountain, once a renowned spiritual vein in primeval Chaos Province, upon which countless large and small Confucian cultivation families once stood in close succession. Among them were ancient clans that had been passed down for over 1,000 years. But now, Clear Spirit Mountain was drenched in rivers of blood. Every family estate, palace, and cave abode lay in ruins. Broken limbs and mutilated remains carpeted every inch of the mountain. This former sacred land of Confucianism, once filled with the sound of recitation, had now utterly become a living hell on earth. Only the ancient Wang clan still clung desperately to survival, but even that was justified by nothing more than the word desperate clinging. Their grand protective formation, capable of withstanding a single strike from a divine transformation cultivator, now flickered under the ferocious bombardment of several 9 apes. Art, yours giant kings like a candle guttering in the wind, on the verge of shattering at any moment. Inside the ancient Wang clan's compound, hundreds of clan members gathered on the rooftops, most of them merely at core formation cultivation, only a scant handful having reached nascent soul. An old woman, a 3 apertures nascent soul cultivator, leaning on a crutch, gazed at the war fires filling the sky, her face filled with sorrow. She turned to look at the surviving bloodline and slowly spoke. Clansmen of the Wang, all our clan's powerhouses have sacrificed themselves on the battlefield. Now, only we remain. Her voice was desolate yet resolute. The ancient Wang clan has stood for 1,300 years, and today, it seems we have finally reached our end. As the old matriarch of the Wang family, I shall live and die with my clan. All of you, when the formation breaks, flee if you can. If by fortune you manage to escape alive, remember this. I hope that one day you will carry on the Wang family's incense. Upon hearing these words, all the Wang clan members could not help but break into weeping. The once glorious and illustrious millennial Wang clan, which at its zenith had produced numerous 9 apertures nascent soul cultivators, had ultimately arrived at its final road. The old matriarch forcibly suppressed her grief and called out in a deep voice, Wang Laishi, Wu Manyu, come here. We 3 old and weak nascent soul women will cover the retreat for our clan. A pair of whooshing sounds followed as 2 streaks of light shot past. 2 nascent soul women flew over and landed beside the old matriarch. One was a young wife with a large pregnant belly, seemingly already 7 months along. The other was a sultry and bewitching young woman, wearing an elegantly close-fitting silk red dress that perfectly accentuated her voluptuous curves, making her irresistibly alluring. Her bare snowy shoulders were exposed, and her naturally pair of peach blossom eyes sparkled with charm. Even though her expression was extremely serious now, they could not conceal the seductive allure that emanated from her very bones. The old matriarch first looked apologetically at the pregnant young wife, her voice trembling. Wang Laishi, being our Wang clan's daughter-in-law. You have been wronged. Hearing this, Wang Lai, she looked down at her high, swollen belly and gently shook her head. Her voice was calm but carried unmatched pride. All the Wang clan's men have died in battle. I am proud to be a Wang family daughter-in-law. Only, I pity my child, who has yet to see the world. The old matriarch's eyes glistened with tears, her lips trembling as she turned to Wu Manyu. Deep apology also filled her eyes. Wu Manyu, our Wang clan has also let you down. You traveled 1,000 miles to seek refuge with us, and yet we cannot even ensure your safety. Wu Manyu smiled bitterly and shook her head. Grandmother, you exaggerate. You were willing to acknowledge me, a granddaughter you had never met before, and you overrode all objections to take me in, even allocating the Wang clan's precious resources to Manyu's heart is already full of gratitude. Gazing at the towering world, destroying figures of the giants in the distance, her voice became resolute. Now disaster looms. The Wang clan's powerhouses have all fallen. How can I just watch and do nothing? How could I possibly blame you? Wu Manyu took a deep breath, a look of determination flashing in her eyes, and spoke in a deep voice. Grandmother, tell the clansmen to prepare. We 3 nascent soul cultivators will buy them a sliver of hope. The old matriarch raised a trembling hand and gently stroked Wu Manyu's hair, her heart overflowing with guilt and regret. Her voice was hoarse as she spoke slowly. I'm sorry, I didn't know that your mother had left behind a granddaughter in this world. That's why you had to wander alone on the continent of Grand Granary Province for so many years. Wu Manyu quietly shook her head and said softly, it's all in the past now. Besides, over there, I also met some important people. Just then, an ear-splitting boom rang out. The entire formation shuddered violently, and countless cracks instantly spiderwebbed across the light barrier. Wu Manyu raised her head to look, and all color drained from her face. Despair and an uncontrollable terror seized her eyes tightly. Yet she still forcefully suppressed her fear and murmured to herself, all my life, I've only known how to scheme against others. I am the villainous in everyone's eyes. I've done very few good deeds. Today, just this once, I'll learn to play the good guy. Crack! The formation finally shattered completely amidst the thunderous roar. The ancient giants grinned savagely, their bloodthirsty vertical eyes wide open, and one by one they extended their long scarlet tongues, greedily sizing up the sumptuous feast before them. Gritting her teeth and suppressing her fear, Wu Manyu hurled herself fiercely into the mass of enemies. She shouted sternly, come then, devour me first. Charging out at the head of the group, she instantly drew the attention of the ancient giants. Several crimson tongues shot through the air, coiling toward her vital points, ready to tear her to shreds. But at this critical moment, the sky suddenly darkened. Vast white clouds had, at some unknown time, surged over the skies of Clear Spirit Mountain, veiling the heavens and obscuring the sun of the 9th firmament. A terrifying aura that made even nascent soul cultivators tremble descended from the clouds onto the earth with a rumble. It was the supreme, transcendent pressure that looks down upon all living beings. Merely its emanating aura made all creatures feel insignificant before the majestic might of heaven. Fear immediately surged in the eyes of the several 9 orifice giants. Their launched tongues swiftly retracted, and they all looked up at the cloud mass with terror and unease. A gust of wind passed, and within the clouds stood a black-clad youth. Amidst the veiling mist, the bright, full moon behind his head was exceptionally striking. The Grand Matriarch's heart jolted violently. She drew a sharp breath, hurriedly knelt, pressed her palms together devoutly, and prayed. The ancient King clan respectfully welcomed the deity transformation venerable. The Wang clansmen were all overwhelmed with awe and reverence, and they all fell to their knees in worship. Although the ancient King clan had produced 9 orifice nascent soul cultivators, not a single deity transformation cultivator had emerged in 1,000 years. In fact, their generation had never even seen a deity transformation venerable. To them, such a figure was also a legend, known only by name, never seen in the flesh. Now they had actually witnessed a true deity transformation venerable with their own eyes. And he had personally descended upon the ancient King clan. Fang Chen's gaze fell upon the 9 orifice giants, and he casually waved his hand. A strand of lightning descended from the 9th heaven, swiftly sweeping across the bodies of the giants. Only a few dull booms were heard, as the several ancient giants, without even letting out a scream, burst into blood, missed on the spot. Fang Chen withdrew his gaze and said flatly, "Continue." He turned and stepped into the air toward the distance, the white cloud behind him swaying in response. Only then did the Wang clan members realize in horror that behind him was a group of nascent soul cultivators crossing the sky. Men and women, young and old, all were nascent soul powerhouses. Among them was also a towering purple-skinned female giant. In a grand, unstoppable procession, they followed the black-clad youth eastward, as if celestial deities were passing through. The Wang clansmen remained kneeling in shock for a long time before slowly recovering their senses. Wang Laishi, cradling her bulging belly, said with great excitement, "Grand Matriarch, my son, before even being born, had the fortune to brush past a deity transformation, venerable. He is destined for great achievements in this life." The Grand Matriarch, her face also full of joy, looked at the 9 orifice giants that had devoured the entire Clear Spirit Mountain, but were now all dead in an instant. She was both delighted and awed. Your late patriarch often said that deity transformation venerables are true dragons walking the mortal world. Without seeing one with your own eyes, it's hard to grasp the meaning. Today, I finally understand what a true dragon is. She looked at the fetus in Wang Laishi's belly and exclaimed emotionally, "This child was saved by a deity transformation venerable and thus can be born. He will surely become a Eat figure in the future." Suddenly, she noticed that Wu Manyu nearby was staring blankly in the direction the deity transformation venerable had departed. Her eyes brimmed with emotions too complex to decipher. There had been surprise, gratitude, melancholy, and also regret. "Manyu, what's wrong? Do you know someone among them?" Wu Manyu withdrew her gaze and shook her head gently. "How could I be fortunate enough to know any of them?" Her heart was filled with bitter self-mockery. In the past, she had left the heavenly secret pavilion, traveled 1,000 miles to seek refuge with her mother's family, and by luck broke through to nascent soul. She had thought it was a wise choice to change her fate. But now she saw that every single person from the heavenly secret pavilion had reached nascent soul. Ren Guhong, once familiar, was now a 3 orifice nascent soul. Yi Bangxia had achieved 4 orifice nascent soul. That person had even broken through to deity transformation, becoming an existence she could only look up to from afar. How dare she still consider herself a former companion? The Grand Matriarch nodded casually. "Such an existence is indeed beyond our reach. Come, help me tidy up the array." Wu Manyu nodded, and with complex feelings bent down to pick up a fragment of the array. But at that moment her vision blurred, and a pair of feet appeared out of nowhere in her sight. She looked up in confusion. She saw a young face, with a bright moon suspended behind his head and a faint smile, clearly reflected in her eyes. "So it really is you. I thought my senses were mistaken." Fang Chen looked at the enchanting woman before him, and a strong sense of familiarity rose in his heart. Wu Manyu hastily straightened up. She smoothed her hair, tugged at her wrinkled skirt, stammering, not knowing what to say. She had once imagined scenes of meeting Fang Chen again, but she never imagined she would be so disheveled, and the gap in status between them would be so vast. After a good while, she collected herself, knelt down stiffly in salute, and said in a low voice, "This junior greets the Starfire Venerable." It turned out she had also heard the ancient sage proclamation, knowing that her old acquaintance was already the renowned Starfire Venerable. However, at the very moment her knees were about to touch the ground, a gentle breeze lifted her up softly. Fang Chen said warmly, "Senior Sister Wu, you are too polite." Hearing these long, missed words, "Senior Sister Wu," Wu Manyu felt both solace and sorrow in her heart. Solace that Fang Chen still acknowledged her as his former senior sister from the heavenly secret pavilion. Sorrow that the two who once schemed against each other, part rival, part friend, were left with only the mark of senior and junior brother, sister. Fang Chen also felt deeply estranged. That bewitching, passionate, and sly senior sister, Wu of old, was gone. At least, she would never appear before him again. Without further words, he took out many heavenly realm resources and placed them in her hands, saying softly, "Senior Sister Wu, take care. If fate allows, we will meet again." With that, his figure flickered, and he teleported away, leaving Wu Manyu standing dumbfounded, staring blankly at the white clouds vanishing into the horizon. "Maman you know that deity transformation, venerable." The Grand Matriarch was the first to recover from the dead silence among the Wang clansmen, asking with trembling lips. Wu Manyu looked down at the spatial storage vessel in her hands and said softly, "That is already in the past." 2 teardrops slid down her cheeks silently. She understood that this was the final intersection of their lives. Within the white clouds, Liu Ruxu watched the returning Fang Chen and asked, "Husband, who did you see?" A hint of laughter flitted through Fang Chen's eyes as he said, "An old acquaintance." The disparity in status made it impossible for him and Wu Manyu to return to how things were before. If Wu Manyu could have stayed by his side like the others from the heavenly secret pavilion, it would have been fine. But once she left, she would eventually become an old acquaintance drifting further and further away. From "if fate allows, we will meet again," it slowly turned into "dare not meet again." He gently held Liu Ruxu's soft hand and said in a low voice, "Let us progress together. Let neither of us leave the other behind." Half a day later, they arrived at the market town surrounding the Sea of Literature Academy. The once bustling, lively, and crowded huge marketplace had turned into ruins. The roof where that brat had lain munching a pear and once spat at him had long been trampled under giant feet. As far as the eye could see, everything was devastated. By the time they arrived, forces from various prefectures had already arrived and wiped out all near by ancient giants. Notably, the forces from Holy Spirit Prefecture had also arrived. Leading them was none other than the Ice Heart Great Venerable. Her dress was somewhat tattered, as if she had just gone through a fierce battle. Sensing the arrival of Fang Chen's group, she glanced sideways, her gaze locking onto Fang Chen at once. She involuntarily looked at Fang Chen's divine halo, pursed her small lips slightly, and snorted softly, "You truly achieved deity transformation. And on top of that, some ancestral Tao. Heaven is unjust." Fang Chen's temple throbbed with a vein. He raised a finger to point at his divine halo. "You do realize I'm a deity transformation cultivator now. When you're muttering about me, can you at least do it from a distance? A deity transformation venerable's perception is 10 times stronger than a nascent soul's. This little murmuring is no different from speaking right in his ear." The Ice Heart Great Venerable's cheeks reddened slightly. She pretended to be nonchalant as she looked toward the Sea of Literature Academy and asked, "Do you know where the star at?" "Is Great Venerable is." Fang Chen frowned and retorted, "You arrived first. Why ask me?" The Ice Heart Great Venerable said lightly, "Isn't his daughter, True Words, one of your followers? If not you, then who?" Fang Chen felt a bit embarrassed. The fact that True Words Venerable was already his subordinate had caused such a stir. Even the Ice Heart Great Venerable, far in Holy Spirit Prefecture, knew. Did the Star Abyss Great Venerable also know? He coughed softly and asked, "Is he not in the academy?" Only then did he look toward the Sea of Literature Academy, veiled among the bamboo sea. Strangely, there was an invisible barrier around the academy. When Fang Chen's spirit transformation stage perception tried to probe inside, it was silently blocked and severed. He looked at Ice Heart Great Venerable with shock and doubt. "You can't see through it either." Ice Heart Great Venerable nodded slightly, a puzzled look on her face. "A very profound formation has been activated. The one who set it up is at least at the Sage Realm." Fang Chen secretly gasped. The Sea of Literature Academy actually had a powerhouse at the Sage Realm. But that didn't make sense. If such an existence truly existed, they could have acted during the giant tribe's invasion, just like Great Wilderness Prefecture, Alchemy Prefecture, and Divine Armament Prefecture redid. Why would it be the first prefecture to be breached, drawing the entire giant army of the central tribe to press upon its borders? While he was pondering, tremors came from all directions, and a large number of people surged toward this place shockingly. They were powerhouses from Grand Granary, Divine Armament, Great Wilderness, and Alchemy Prefectures. The master of Fang Mountain's first, ranked pavilion was covered in blood, and the group of demonic cultivators he led were all drenched in blood as well. Some had even been lost, clearly having experienced many battles. The master of Fang Mountain's first, ranked pavilion said to Fang Chen, "The southwest region has been reclaimed." Given his strength and that of the Red Demon Great Venerable, wherever they went they advanced with irresistible force. No matter how many primeval giants there were, they couldn't kill enough. Reclamation was only to be expected. Only then did he notice that beside Fang Chen stood a woman of around 20 with a beauty that could topple nations. That woman exuded an ethereal, immortal aura, her temperament tranquil and natural, her eyes clear, still carrying a touch of maidenly innocence. Even after the baptism of this great battle, she retained that childlike purity. He smiled faintly and said, "Ice Heart Great Venerable, it's been a long time." Ice Heart Great Venerable looked at the unfamiliar, middle-aged man before her with confusion. Where did a heavenly man, 5 decays Great Venerable, come from in the Grand Granary Great Prefecture, and we've met? At this moment, the master of Fang Mountain's first rank pavilion wore a brand new mask, so even if they had met before, Iceheart Great Venerable couldn't recognize him. Glancing at Fang Chen and Iceheart Great Venerable standing together, the master spoke with a half-smile. "You don't recognize me, but I recognize you. After all, you are in our Grand Granary Great Prefecture wearing heart, connecting rings with our Sparkfire Venerable. I once thought it was fake news, since at that time, Sparkfire Venerable was still just an atorifice, nascent soul cultivator." The Red Dust Venerable's eyes widened in shock and cried out, "Heart-connecting rings, aren't those only worn by Tao companions on Starry Mountain?" "Deputy Palace Master," you muttered in astonishment, "am I getting a front row seat to some big gossip?" The powerhouses from the various prefectures all dotted their eyes back and forth between the two, extremely curious. Iceheart Great Venerable's snow-white cheeks flushed slightly. This matter was known only to her, Fang Chen, and the Compassion Mirror Venerable. How did the news get out? It truly lived up to the saying, "There is no wall that wind cannot pass through." But she had a clear conscience and only replied calmly, "Misunderstand it however you like." Hearing this, Liu Ruxu could not pretend she hadn't heard. "If it exists, it exists. If it doesn't, it doesn't. What do you mean, misunderstand it however you like?" Iceheart Great Venerable might not care about her reputation, but Fang Chen still cares about his good name. She stepped forward and bowed slightly. "This Great Venerable, I ask you to clarify this misunderstanding in public." Iceheart Great Venerable swept a glance at Liu Ruxu, feeling angry. She herself didn't feel wronged, yet this woman was defending Fang Chen. She said expressionlessly, "Who are you? Why should this venerable clarify anything for you?" Liu Ruxu replied, neither servile nor overbearing. "I am Fang Chen's wife, Liu Ruxu." Iceheart Great Venerable's delicate body trembled violently, and a flash of panic crossed her beautiful eyes. This was actually the lawful wife coming to denounce her. She absolutely dared not let Liu Ruxu misunderstand, so she hastily waved her hand and said, "Immortal Zhu, this is really a misunderstanding. That dog." "Your husband and I, there was absolutely no crossing of boundaries. I was trying to hit him." Liu Ruxu slightly frowned. "To hit him, you had to wear something meant for Tao companions." Iceheart Great Venerable hurriedly said, "I put it on to prevent him from running away, and I also put one on him." Liu Ruxu pondered. "You wore it yourself, that's fine, but you also forced my husband to wear one. Are you two really just a misunderstanding?" Iceheart Great Venerable clasped her little hands together. What was going on? The more she explained, the messier it got. She simply said, "In short, there is only enmity between Fang Chen and me, absolutely no affection. Immortal Zhu, you can rest assured." Liu Ruxu asked doubtfully, "What grudge do you have with my husband? At that time, my husband was only an atorifice nascent soul cultivator. He couldn't possibly have provoked you, right?" Iceheart Great Venerable said irritably, "Of course, it's because he stole my under." Halfway through, she stopped abruptly. How could she say that? Liu Ruxu frowned and pressed. "Stole your under, what? It couldn't be your belly band, could it?" She looked suspiciously at Iceheart Great Venerable's pert and shapely chest. Iceheart Great Venerable quickly flushed red, her little mouth trembling with nervousness, stammering for a long while without uttering a single word. Fang Chen, watching anxiously, coughed dryly and said, "It was a pig's stomach." Liu Ruxu cast a puzzled glance. Fang Chen, showing no hint of guilt, said, "Iceheart Great Venerable captured a rare pig demon, and I took the pig's stomach. She was chasing me for that. Isn't that right, Iceheart Great Venerable?" The bellyband affair could never be explained clearly. No matter how many mouths one had, it mustn't come to light. Iceheart Great Venerable's eyes darted away, and she nodded repeatedly. "Yes, yes, it's pig stomach." Liu Ruxu muttered to herself, "She seems like such a gentle girl. Why does she like eating pig stomach?" Now that it was cleared up, she stopped pressing and said, "Thank you, Great Venerable, for clarifying the misunderstanding." Iceheart Great Venerable said guiltily, "It was the right thing to do." After Liu Ruxu turned and walked back, she lightly patted her chest to calm her pounding heart, secretly thinking that Liu Ruxu was even scarier than the giant emperor. She quickly shifted her steps, moving away from Fang Chen. Before leaving, she stole a glance at him and inwardly snorted, "You made me lose face in public. Just wait, sooner or later, I'll turn into an old hag and give you a real beating, making you lose face too." With the matter settled, Fang Chen let out a long breath of relief. He gave the master of Fang Mountain's first rank pavilion a speechless sidelong glance, so tactless, saying such things right in front of Liu Ruxu. The corner of the master's mouth twitched. He truly didn't know that Liu Ruxu and Fang Chen were married. With an embarrassed chuckle, he changed the subject. Where is Star Abyss, Great Venerable? Why is he nowhere to be seen? Could he have fallen? Everyone's hearts tensed. As the leader of the Primordial Chaos Prefecture, if he had fallen, wouldn't the other Confucian cultivators have been completely wiped out? What exactly was the current situation in the Primordial Chaos Prefecture? At that moment, a warm and gentle voice suddenly came from underground. I am still here. Under everyone's gaze, a fissure slowly opened in the earth, and a tall, middle-aged man in a long blue robe, with a righteous countenance, flew out from underground. It was Star Abyss, Great Venerable. Fang Chen raised an eyebrow, discerning something unusual. Had it been before, he naturally wouldn't have been able to tell, but with the perception of the spirit transformation stage, he could see that the Star Abyss, Great Venerable before him was merely a paper substitute. Junior pays respects to Star Abyss, Great Venerable. Star Abyss, Great Venerable examined the round moon divine halo behind his head, his face showing deep relief. Is Zhenyun doing well? Now it was Fang Chen's turn to feel guilty. He said, She's doing quite well. Star Abyss, Great Venerable then asked, after you returned, did you communicate? Fang Chen felt even more guilty, a bit of in-depth communication. Star Abyss, Great Venerable beamed with joy, thinking that the two had already buried the hatchet. He patted Fang Chen on the shoulder approvingly. I can rest easy in trusting Zhenyun to you. You two should have more in-depth exchanges, get to know each other thoroughly. Although your relationship isn't harmonious now, feelings will grow over time. I believe you will both be happy. Fang Chen's heart thumped. Thank goodness Star Abyss, Great Venerable didn't know that he and Venerable Zhenyun had already consummated their relationship. Otherwise, given the strict standards of a Confucian Tao leader for his daughter, he would never permit the loss of chastity before marriage. Great Venerable, let's first discuss the current situation in the Primordial Chaos Prefecture. Fang Chen cleared his throat lightly, breaking the silence first and steering the conversation towards serious matters. He surveyed the people around him and said solemnly, We have all gathered here to rush to the final decisive battle with the giants. From a distance, Iceheart, Great Venerable caught sight of Fang Chen's slightly guilty expression and couldn't help but cover her mouth with her hand, letting out a covert laugh. She whispered teasingly, So even you, Fang Chen, can have a day like this. Iceheart, Great Venerable, had originally wanted to stir up some trouble for him, but when she heard the words final decisive battle, she put away her mischievous thoughts. She walked gracefully up, scrutinizing Star Abyss, Great Venerable from head to toe, and asked bluntly, Where is your real body? The Star Abyss, Great Venerable, did not answer right away. Instead, he first looked around with a face full of gratitude. He spoke with deep emotion. Everyone here has endured one life, and death battle after another. I am sure your hearts are heavy with the grief of lost kin and companions. To have you rush to Primordial Chaos State in such a sorrowful state of mind to join the decisive battle, I am truly overwhelmed with guilt. The Star Abyss, Great Venerable took a deep breath, and his voice suddenly rose several notches. Here and now, on behalf of Primordial Chaos State, I bow deeply to you all in thanks. Before his words faded, he had already bent from the waist, his expression solemn as he made a profound bow to the assembly. Seeing this, Fang Chen immediately straightened his countenance and said with grave sincerity, Senior, your words are too heavy. As the saying goes, when the lips are gone, the teeth are exposed to the cold. Should Primordial Chaos State fall, how could the other 8 states stand alone? His tone was resolute and brooked no argument as he continued. The fate of the 9 states of the Central Plains is one. Since the ancient giants dare to hurl their full might against us, we must naturally rally every last ounce of our strength and fight them in a final, desperate battle to the death. Fang Chen's gaze swept across the faces of everyone present, and he spoke word by weighty word. This 1,000-year war of humanity must be brought to an end. Victory or defeat all hinges on this battle. The Iceheart, Great Venerable, listening off to the side, secretly nodded to herself. Inwardly, she thought that aside from the stain of stealing her undergarment all those years ago, a blemish that could never be washed clean, this Fang Chen was otherwise truly beyond reproach. She immediately declared her stance. Our Holy Spirit State will not only send nascent soul and deity transformation cultivators to this battle. The Venerable Sage Wanyan himself will also come in person. The Iceheart, Great Venerable's crisp voice was thick with unyielding resolve. Our Holy Spirit State vows to live and die together with Primordial Chaos State. Hearing this, the Star Abyss, Great Venerable, could not help but be visibly moved. He nodded heavily and said with fervor, With fellow countrymen of the Central Plains who are so united in purpose, even if we should lose this battle, we will have no shame before the generations yet to come. He steadied his emotions, then shifted gears. Everyone, Allow me now to inform you of the real state of the war in primordial chaos state. The voice of the Star Abyss Great Venerable instantly turned low and heavy. He spoke slowly. As you can see, primordial chaos state has been defeated. In this war, 283 cultivation sects have been wiped from existence. Over 4,000 nascent soul Confucian cultivators sleep forever amidst these blood-soaked lands. Now only a little over 30 sects remain in all of primordial chaos state, and barely 300 nascent soul Confucian cultivators are left. The 1,000-year deep foundation that primordial chaos state had accumulated has been utterly emptied in a single battle. Fang Chen's heart gave a violent clench at that moment. He had imagined that this battle in primordial chaos state would be unbearably brutal, but never in his darkest reckoning had he dreamt it would reach such a tragic extreme. An army of over 4,000 nascent soul cultivators, a force more than double the strength of the Take in great state, had been whittled down in the end to a mere 300 men. Of the more than 300 sects that had once stood in dense ranks, 9 in 10 were now destroyed. Had reinforcements from the other states not arrived in time, probably even the ordinary living beings in every corner would have been devoured by those giants until 9 out of every 10 houses stood empty. The beautiful eyes of the Ice Heart Great Venerable were filled with trembling emotion, revealing profound sorrow. She asked in alarm, could the tribe you faced have been so terrifyingly powerful? A bitter smile spread across the face of the Star Abyss Great Venerable as he answered, because above us looms the Blood Moon Royal Court. This royal court possesses 1 true Blood Moon King, 30 giant kings, and 3,000 ancient giants. But of course, the most troublesome thing is that in their hands they hold an ancient blood pool, one that can transform our own people into enemies. Fang Chen slowly closed his eyes. The strength of the Blood Moon Royal Court was more than double that of primordial chaos state. That alone would have made it a certain death scenario, much like what the Taking Great State had faced. And on top of that, that deadly ancient blood pool was added to the mix. How could primordial chaos state not suffer a crushing defeat? A look of deep compassion surfaced in the eyes of the Star Abyss Great Venerable as he continued. Many of our nascent soul Confucian cultivators would rather die than be transformed. By that blood pool, whenever they found themselves outmatched, they chose without a moment's hesitation to drag the enemy down to mutual destruction. It was precisely for this reason that, although we were nearly annihilated, we also gravely wounded the vitality of the Blood Moon Royal Court. Now, their ancient giants number less than 1,000. Of those 30 giant kings, 7 out of 10 have fallen. That 5, Star Giant King and the Blood Moon King himself were both severely injured by our Confucian secret arts, wounds from which they can never recover. Finally, the Great Libationer alerted all the states in time. Fearing he would be encircled by our human forces, the Blood Moon King led his remaining troops in a panicked retreat back into that sky, reaching Black Pillar, where he awaits the massing of the various ancient giant armies. Fang Chen opened his eyes, his face filled with deep respect. Primordial chaos state had, through sheer grit, chewed up an enemy twice their own strength. One must understand that, in theory, to chew up 2,000 ancient giants equivalent to the mid to late nascent soul stage, primordial chaos state would have needed a full 2th Aus and Confucian cultivators at that very level. Yet primordial chaos state could muster at most just over 1,000. And at the deity transformation level, with a mere 15 of their own, they had struck down more than 20 giant kings. To achieve such a glorious battle record, it must have been that among the Confucian cultivators of primordial chaos state, there were no shortage of souls as fiercely resolute as the 9 orifice nascent souls of Taking Great State, throwing themselves into the flame like moths. No shortage of heroic and tragic songs like that of the Bodhisattva Tianting, eating himself to the tiger. His voice heavy with admiration, he murmured, primordial chaos state, though defeated, is bathed in glory. However, the Star Abyss Great Venerable shook his head and looked at him seriously. Everyone here was inspired by your take in great state. You were the weakest of the states. Before the war, you had barely 3 to 5 deity transformation cultivators, and your mid till late nascent soul cultivators numbered fewer than 500. Yet you were the first to achieve a great victory, the first to carve out a ray of hope for the Central Plains. It was precisely because of this that the Confucian cultivators of my primordial chaos state took your take in great state as their model, fighting the ancient giants with reckless abandon until their very last drop of blood was spilled. The moment these words fell, the powerful experts from every state present all turned simultaneously to look at Fang Chen. Even the Ice Heart Great Venerable could not help but cast a curious glance and asked, what exactly happened in the battle of your Taking Great State? Originally, she had only known that Taking Great State had won, but she had absolutely no idea of the enemy's actual strength. She privately mused that the Black Sun royal court must have been the weakest among the 9 great tribes of the heavenly realm. Taking Great State's victory was, of course, partly due to their utter disregard for death, but it absolutely also had to do with the Black Sun royal court itself being the weakest in strength. With a calm expression, Fang Chen narrated, the Black Sun royal court, 1,000 ancient giants were completely annihilated, and all 8 giant kings were slain. Hearing this, everyone inwardly confirmed their thoughts. It was just as they thought. The Black Sun royal court was the weakest, with only 8 giant kings. Such strength could be easily handled by any one of the 9 states of the Central Plains. However, Fang Chen added one more line. In addition to that, we completely wiped out the 9th army of the Central Tribe. Huh. The Iceheart Great Venerable's elegant eyebrows shot up. Instinctively, she exchanged a bewildered and uncertain glance with the Star Abyss Great Venerable. She discovered that the Star Abyss Great Venerable's face wore exactly the same look of questioning doubt as her own. Could she have misheard something? The Central Army had actually descended upon taking Great State, and they had annihilated it. With a look of sheer shock, the Star Abyss Great Venerable voiced the question on everyone's mind. The intelligence I possess indicates that the 9th Army was a terrifying force, boasting 1-5 Star Giant King and a full 40 Giant Kings. In that instant, the images of Bodhisattva Tianting, Jian Lanfang, and those 5 deity transformation venerables who had rushed to help but tragically fallen appeared with utter clarity in Fang Chen's mind. Not a trace of pride showed on his face. There was only endless, crushing weight. He nodded and said in a low voice, "Your intelligence is correct. The 9th Army descended on taking Great State in 2 waves. We went through 3 earth-shaking great battles, one after another, and in the end, it was at the cost of sacrificing many, many people that we were able to fully wipe out the 9th Army." In a thunderous instant, the entire assembly fell into absolute, deathly silence. Those present silently made the calculation in their minds. 8 giant kings from the Black Sun Royal Court, plus 40 from the 9th Army. Didn't that mean taking Great State had faced nearly 50 giant kings? But how many deity transformation cultivators did all of take in Great State even have? Even counting reinforcements from all sides, the number would not exceed a dozen or so. How on earth had they managed to strike down nearly 50 giant kings? At that moment, Venerable Red Dust, who was one of the reinforcements and had personally experienced that great battle, spoke up with a face full of shame. Although I rushed to the battlefield in the final battle, my strength was limited, and I was unable to kill even a single giant king. Half of those giant kings were slain single-handedly by Venerable Starfire. He paused, took a deep breath, and added, by the way, that also includes the 5-star giant king of the 9th Army, the Netherworld King. Clang! The air seemed to freeze at that moment. No one knew whose sword slipped from their hand and fell to the ground, the blade colliding with the hard stone, producing an exceptionally crisp yet earth-shaking metallic clang. The top experts from all regions locked their gazes firmly onto the crowd, onto Fang Chen, who bore the unique disc-shaped divine ring. Their minds went blank, leaving only one thought. Venerable Starfire, single-handedly killed over half of the giant kings. Even the mighty 5-star Netherworld King was taken down by him alone. Grand Venerable Iceheart covered her slightly agape mouth with her small hand, stunned for a long moment before murmuring in a dreamlike tone, "This fellow truly advanced to the deity transformation stage. Even I could never achieve such a battle record." Her words voiced the exact same doubt in the hearts of many deity transformation experts present. How come my deity transformation is completely different from his deity transformation? A single person slaying over 20 giant kings and casually taking down a 5-star giant king as well. Is this something that we, deity transformation cultivators at the first decline of heaven and man, are capable of? After a brief silence, the entire front of the Wen High Academy erupted into an uproar. Such a heaven-defying battle record left everyone present in disbelief, their hearts surging with tidal waves of shock. Venerable Heart Demon, is this really true? A deity transformation expert from the Holy Spirit region quietly asked. This battle record was simply too absurd, making it hard not to doubt its authenticity. Hearing this, Venerable Heart Demon carefully recalled, mentally calculated meticulously, then shook his head. He said it wasn't quite like that. Upon hearing this, everyone breathed a sigh of relief, thinking just as expected. It seems the rumors were indeed overblown. One person killing over 20 giant kings. How could that be possible? Even if one hacked until their divine weapon's edge was curled, it would still be impossible to slay that many. But unexpectedly, Venerable Heart Demon immediately added a correction. Strictly speaking, Venerable Starfire single-handedly killed only 22 giant kings. But if we count those slain with assistance and collaborative encirclement, that adds 10 more, making a total of 32. The air, which had just started to stir again, once more fell into a deathly silence. So in the end, that astonishing battle record wasn't exaggerated in the slightest. It was actually understated. Grand Venerable Iceheart widened her charming eyes, staring at Fang Chen in astonishment, blurting out, "No way. Can cultivating the flawless ancestral path really be this heaven, defying?" But Grand Venerable Stardepth beside her had eyes shining brightly. He stared fixedly at Fang Chen as if gazing upon a glittering, peerless treasure mountain. He spoke loudly with a voice trembling with excitement. "Fang Chen, you alone are enough to match the strength of an entire region. Such a battle record is simply unprecedented since ancient times. I say, even if placed in that great era 1,000 years ago, when elites of mankind emerged in droves and stars shone brilliantly, this battle record of yours would absolutely rock NK among the top and be recorded forever in history. Among the current younger generation, apart from that young emperor, I fear no one else could replicate your glory." Everyone's eyes were filled with admiration. If someone claimed Fang Chen was the strongest deity transformation in the world, perhaps there would be dissenters. But at this moment, if one said he was one of the strongest young deity transformation cultivators, no one present would be unconvinced. In the whole world, among his peers, those who could surpass Fang Chen could probably be counted on one hand. Fang Chen's expression remained calm. He merely shook his head slightly, his tone devoid of arrogance. "I merely stand on the shoulders of countless martyrs." His gaze lowered slightly, but his voice was clear and solemn, without the Bodhisattva's third grand vow, feeding himself to the demons. Without the self-sacrifice of the deity transformation, seniors from all regions, how could I have had the chance to slay so many giant kings? Fang Chen paused, then raised his head to look at Grand Venerable Stardepth, his gaze turning focused. "Senior, let us first discuss the plan for the primordial chaos region. For the upcoming decisive battle, how do you intend to deploy the strategy?" At these words, everyone present straightened their expressions and focused intently. Everyone knew that the coming decisive battle was the true pivotal factor determining the survival of the Central Plains. Grand Venerable Stardepth's expression also darkened as he slowly spoke. "According to the reports sent back by the Great Libationer, currently 3 Central Tribe armies are assembling above our heads. They are expected to reach the Central Plains in half a day. And we are also gathering the strong from all regions, preparing to fight them to the death here." Hearing this, Fang Chen understood completely. In other words, both sides were now frantically organizing their armies, only awaiting the final death, until the end slaughter. He silently estimated, based on the troop scale of the 9th Army, 3 Central Tribe armies would have at least 120 giant kings, plus 3 5-star-level giant kings. Fang Chen looked around, his gaze sweeping over the faces of the people from the already arrived Great Granary region, Great Wilderness region, Pill region, Divine Weapon region, and D, Holy Spirit region. Great Granary region, Deity Transformation, Combatants 8. Great Wilderness region, Deity Transformation Cultivators, Venerable Red Dust and Venerable Forbidden Purple 2. Pill region, Deputy Palace Masters U and 2 others, plus the 4 who did not reinforce Great Granary, totaling 6. Divine Weapon region, the 2nd Decline Cultivator who reinforced Great Granary, plus the 4 guarding this region, totaling 5. Holy Spirit region, 20. Fang Chen rapidly calculated in his mind, finally uttering the heavy number, a total of 41 deity transformation cultivators. With just these people before them, they were far from able to wage a true, decisive battle against the ancient giants. Fang Chen's brows furrowed slightly as he looked at Grand Venerable Stardepth, asking gravely, "Senior, in the primordial chaos region, how many deity transformation cultivators remain now?" A profound sadness welled up in Grand Venerable Stardepth's eyes, his voice seeming to age greatly. "Now only I remain, along with Venerable Thousand Charms and Venerable Purple Sky." Fang Chen's heart sank sharply. Only 3 left, meaning the other 12 deity transformation companions had already perished in battle. He forcibly rallied his spirits, though his tone still couldn't help but sound heavy. "Then currently, we have a total of 44 deity transformation combatants. We must wait for reinforcements from the Void Return region, the Myriad Demon Great region, and the Heaven region." But Grand Venerable Stardust slowly shook his head, his voice sinking. The Heaven region. There's no need to wait. In every past great war against the ancient giants, the Heaven region has always been a primary target of attack. This time, since the Heaven region has lost contact, it must have encountered a devastating enemy. If nothing unexpected has happened, the remaining 5 central tribe armies have probably all descended upon the Heaven region.
Yes, 5.
Fang Chen felt his scalp tingle, a chill instantly racing down his spine. Setting aside ordinary ancient giants, the number of giant kings alone was a staggering 200. Could the Heaven region truly withstand this? As if seeing through his hidden worry, Grand Venerable Stardust calmly added, "Rest assured, the prosperity of the Heaven region is not much different from the status of the Centaur Al tribe in the heavenly realm. The military strength they possess might not be matched even by the other 8 regions combined." Fang Chen was secretly shocked. He naturally knew the Heaven region was extremely prosperous. After all, those awe-inspiring existences were all located there: Young Emperor Mountain, the Moon Palace, the Sacred Bee, oddest in Taoist grounds. But he had never expected that the Heaven region was powerful to such an extent. However, precisely because of that, the Heaven region was tying down the greatest number of enemies. Otherwise, all regions would have faced the frontal assault of the central tribe armies, and by now, countless regions would likely have fallen into scorched earth. Fang Chen said softly, "In that case, we can only wait for reinforcements from the Void Return region and the Myriad Demon Great region." 44 against 120. Fang Chen felt as if an invisible mountain had been pressed onto his shoulders, so heavy that he could barely breathe. This was the decisive battle, incomparable to any previous localized skirmish. Individual strength in the cataclysmic melee of over 200 spirit transformation cultivators and giant kings was utterly insignificant. Even the great supremes who had entered the 5 decays of heaven and earth could not alter the entire tide of battle single-handedly. He took a deep breath, his voice low and slow. "I only hope these 2 provinces can send more people." Great Supreme Xingyuan surveyed the extremely somber expressions of everyone, then composed himself first and declared boldly, "Everyone, do not lose heart. In this decisive battle, the sages themselves will join the fight. The clash at their level is the ultimate force that will determine final victory or defeat. If our sages win, the giant kings will naturally retreat without a fight. Only if the sages are defeated will it fall to us to stake our lives in battle against the enemy." A flash of light suddenly lit up before Fang Chen's eyes. Right just now, Great Supreme Bingxin had also said that Sage Wanyun would descend upon the Primal Chaos Province and personally join the decisive battle. All the sages currently guarding the central plains would surely commit to battle as well. The Great Libationer had slain 3 emperors single-handedly, already securing the greatest advantage for our side in the sage-level combat. If the central plains sages ultimately won, then the decisive battle could be declared a victory ahead of time. Hope instantly reignited in everyone's eyes, and their spirits were lifted. The central plains still had a thread of hope. Great Supreme Xingyuan smiled slightly, his gaze sweeping over the group, and said gently, "There is still half a day. Everyone, do your utmost to prepare for battle." He paused, then turned his gaze to the blood-soaked nascent soul cultivators who had rushed over from various provinces. His tone suddenly became solemn and earnest. "Fellow cultivators of the nascent soul stage, on behalf of Primal Chaos Province, I thank you for saving all living beings from dire calamity. However, I have one more matter for which I must shamelessly request your assistance. That is, please lend your strength to relocate the human compatriots of Primal Chaos Province, taking away as many as possible." All the nascent soul cultivators' expressions turned solemn. In an instant, they understood Great Supreme Xingyuan's intention. In combat at the sage level, even a mere lingering shockwave was sufficient to devastate a region. The grand melee of spirit transformation cultivators would likewise be a scene of heaven, shattering, earth-rending destruction. Once the decisive battle erupted in full force, regardless of the final outcome, Primal Chaos Province would inevitably be reduced to scorched earth. The countless living beings upon the land would all face annihilation. Therefore, an unprecedented, massive evacuation must be carried out. An operation of such staggering scale was truly unprecedented throughout history. Under normal circumstances, it would have been nearly impossible to accomplish, for the number of beings needing relocation was astronomical beyond counting. Only today, with nascent soul cultivators from all provinces gathered here, did this epochal mass migration have a real chance of being put into action. The master of the Heavenly Secrets Pavilion was the first to loudly agree. My Heavenly Secrets Pavilion will be responsible for 20 cities. The other sects quickly chimed in one after another. My Great Yin sect will handle 50 cities. White Horse Temple, 60 cities. Fire Worship Cult, 40 cities. Nascent soul powerhouses from all provinces vied to respond, and in the blink of an eye, they began deploying for the operation. At this moment, Liu Ruxu walked up to Fang Chen, reached out and tightly clasped his hand, her gaze resolute without the slightest wavering. Looking at Fang Chen, she enunciated word by word, "My husband, in this great calamity of the Central Plains, you need only fight with all your might. If you return in the flesh, through wind, frost, snow, and rain, I will accompany you through the long years to come. If only your soul returns, in phoenix crown and radiant bridal gown, I will follow you into the shadowy yellow springs." This trip to the Central Plains held more peril than promise. This meeting might truly be our final farewell. Fang Chen said nothing, only silently embraced her, lowered his head, and placed a warm kiss gently on her forehead, then whispered, "Wait for me at home." Fairy Yuncheng by the side was also moved in her heart, tears glistening in her eyes, her voice slightly trembling. "I feel the same. If young Master Fang returns, Yuncheng will serve you for a lifetime. If you do not return, I shall go to the 9 nether yellow springs to seek you out. In life and death together, never to part." Liu Qingxian was even more deeply stirred. She raised her hand and drew a green frost sword, without hesitation cutting off a lock of her beautiful hair, and presented both the sword and the strand of hair to Fang Chen. Her eyes were slightly reddened, yet her voice stubbornly refused to tremble. "I also want you to marry me, in a grand and glorious ceremony, just as you married Sister Ruxu. If you cannot return, then cut a lock of your own hair and tie it with mine. In this way, we too shall be considered wedded husband and wife." Fang Chen's heart ached. He stretched out his arms and pulled both Fairy Yuncheng and Liu Qingxian into his embrace. He closed his eyes, feeling the warmth of the three women so close, and the heaviness in his heart was swept away. With them in this life, what more could a man ask? Even if he died on the battlefield, he would have no more regrets. He slowly released his arms, letting go of the three in his embrace, a smile reappearing at the corner of his mouth. "All of you, wait for me at home. Even if only a wisp of my soul remains, I will definitely return." Liu Ruxu nodded with tears in her eyes, said nothing more, turned and walked away, leaving behind only a crisp, decisive statement. "Let's go. We'll return home and wait for him." Fairy Yuncheng and Liu Qingxian forcibly suppressed their overwhelming reluctance, resolutely turned around, and followed Liu Ruxu's footsteps. They never looked back, lest one more glance would truly become the last glance of this life. After they had gradually walked far away, Xia Keoj quietly slipped over to Fang Chen, quickly stuffed the Earth Fang sword back into his hand, and muttered softly, "Uncle, Master." "Uncle, Master, here's your sword back." Fang Chen took the sword, looking her up and down with a puzzled expression. "What's this about?" Xia Keoj was startled, hastily turned her head to look in the direction Liu Ruxu had departed, and seeing that she hadn't turned back, let out a long sigh of relief. She shot Fang Chen a resentful glare and lowered her voice. "Keep it down. If Fairy Zhu hears, I'll be in big trouble." She was truly terrified of Liu Ruxu. Think about it, even a proud daughter of heaven like Great Supreme Bingxin, because of a heart-to-heart bond ring, was frightened to such a state in front of Liu Ruxu. Much less her having taken Fang Chen's Earth Fang sword. Fang Chen was speechless, truly not understanding what Xia Keoj was feeling so guilty about. Suddenly, he noticed there was a pure golden feather attached to the Earth Fang sword. Fang Chen's eyes showed surprise, and a strange thought surfaced in his mind. Was Xia Keoj no longer intending to keep up the pretense? She had openly placed an item of the angel race right before his eyes. However, since Xia Keoj did not voluntarily reveal it, Fang Chen was not about to expose her secret either, and he continued to pretend to know nothing. He raised his eyes and looked at Xia Keoj with a half-smile. "Keoj, what is this?" Xia Keoj, having confirmed that Liu Ruxu was far away, turned her face to Fang Chen and smiled sweetly, a hint of her own private little thoughts in the smile. "This is a gift from Keoj to Uncle, Master." Xia Keoj gently pressed the golden feather against Fang Chen's chest and said softly, "Placed over the heart, it can block a fatal attack for Uncle, Master. I hope Uncle, Master can return safely." Fang Chen was astonished, his heart filled with doubt. Can it block any fatal attack? He gazed at the girl before him, as serene as a distant cloud in the sky, who smiled only for him, and boundless gratitude surged in his heart. He said sincerely, "Keoj, you have helped me greatly. If Uncle, Master survives this calamity, I will unconditionally grant you one request. Whatever is within my power, I will do." Back in the yin-yang sky, Fang Chen had completed the unification of the 6 divisions, granting him the temporary power of a spirit transformation cultivator. With that technique, he avenged the blood debt of the living beings of Return to Ruin Province. Also with that technique, when the first wave of ancient giants descended, he slew 2 giant kings and survived. Fang Chen had not yet had the chance to repay these favors. But he truly could not fathom what Xia Keoj wanted, so he could only offer her a promise. Xia Keoj's crystalline eyes immediately lit up, and she pressed, "Really, no going back on your word." Fang Chen replied with a smile, "I cultivate the flawless domain. If a promise remains unfulfilled, my domain can no longer advance an inch. So tell me, is there any request I can fulfill right now?" Without exaggeration, the current Fang Chen was the most promise-keeping person in the Central Plains. A promise is worth 1,000 gold, and it must be carried out. Xia Keoj covered her small mouth, hiding the uncontrollable curve of her lips, and said playfully, "I have so many requirements for Martial Uncle. But I haven't decided which one yet. Let's wait until you return safely. I declare in advance, my requests won't be simple." "Martial Uncle, don't blame me then." Watching the sly glint flash in her eyes, Fang Chen suddenly felt a knot of unease in his heart. Would Keoj actually ask something that would truly put him in a difficult position? Probably not, right? She's always so well behaved. How could she bear to make her martial uncle troubled? She waved her hand, her steps lighter than ever as she caught up with the members of the Heavenly Secrets Pavilion, and said crisply, "All right, I won't disturb Martial Uncle's batch. The preparations, Keoj is off now." Afterward, the pavilion master of the Heavenly Secrets Pavilion, the Harten, slaving demon emperor, Hua Wang, and others bade farewell to Fang Chen in turn. Even the little rebel said in a childish voice, "Big brother, take care. I'll miss you." However, inside its tiny head, a completely opposite thought was spinning great. "Finally, we're disbanding. As soon as I get back, I'll pack up and run." But as it walked, its feet suddenly left the ground, stepping into empty air. Fang Chen extended 2 fingers, pinched a whisker on its mouth, and gently lifted it up. With a half smile, he said, "Were you disappointed when I successfully reached the divinity transformation stage?" Muttering about wanting to disband and split the spoils. The little rebel's heart thumped, and it quickly denied in its childish voice, "Not at all, big brother. I like big brother the most. How could I bear to disband?" Fang Chen chuckled lightly and said, "Don't be afraid. I've always been magnanimous. You put your master on the ground, and your master will put you on his heart." The little rebel was stunned, secretly wondering, has the little bloodsucker had a change of heart? Actually, this magnanimous. However, soon it was holding its head, sunk in deep contemplation. For Fang Chen had tied it belly, outside, firmly bound to his chest over his heart. Fang Chen nodded in satisfaction. "I hope your 100% chests. Mashing rock skill will also be useful against the Giant King's origin." Finally, he carefully placed the golden feather Keoj had given him into his breast. With this life-saving treasure, plus the life-saving meat shield on his chest, his chances of survival should increase quite a bit, right? He lifted his gaze toward the direction Liu Ruxu had departed. Their figures had already vanished from sight. What could be seen were cities being uprooted amidst thunderous rumbles. The nascent soul cultivators were hoisting them, grandly heading toward the Imperial Observatory for refuge. Under the afterglow of the setting sun, the cities filling the sky were draped in fiery crimson light. Seen from afar, they looked like clusters of leaping sparks, carrying the hope of the primordial Unity Province, seeking new lands to ignite anew. The remaining divinity transformation cultivators stood in place, silently watching this grandest migration in human history with heartfelt blessings. A long while, heaven and earth had completely darkened. When the last city vanished from sight, Venerable Astral Abyss, eyes slightly red, turned to face the assembled divinity transformation elders. He said in a deep voice, "They have all left, now only we remain on this land." The various divinity transformation cultivators looked around. The heavens and earth were boundless, only they stood alone in this pitch darkness. A colossal sense of desolation and loneliness surged into everyone's heart. Venerable Astral Abyss's voice was solemn and resolute, low and deep. "Let us, the martial trailblazers who have walked ahead of all living beings, tear apart the dark sky and carve out a dawn for them." In the darkness, everyone's eyes brightened like torch flames, like rising suns one after another, about to illuminate the 1,000-year night sky. Venerable Astral Abyss waved his hand, and grains of crystal stones containing pure essence flew before everyone. He explained, "These are the wish fruits that my primordial unity province has accumulated over many years, formed by the predecessors at their life's end, sealing their own vast ideousness energy. All of you can make a wish to enhance your cultivation, strengthen your soul power, or even obtain certain things. As long as it is within the capacity of the righteousness energy in the wish fruit, the wish can be fulfilled." Everyone caught one, marveling. Fang Chen caught one as well and probed into it. A shocking surge of vast righteousness energy rushed into his mind. The density of this energy was equivalent to consuming the power of 10 spacetime dust grains. It was definitely left by a former nascent soul-late stage great scholar. Venerable Astral Abyss had given out dozens in one go, clearly the accumulation of not just 1 or 2 generations, but several generations, perhaps even since the great defeat of mankind 1,000 years ago. They had been preparing. For this battle, Primordial Unity Province had prepared for a full millennium. Venerable Astral Abyss said, "Everyone prepare yourselves, at most half a day until the battle begins." Fang Chen, solemn upon hearing this, immediately sat cross-legged. After attaining divinity transformation, he had rushed to the Far East, then hurried to Primordial Unity Province, leaving many matters unhandled. Foremost was that grand pill. This pill could elevate him to the second decay of the heaven, man, and if he could successfully break through, wouldn't that bring him a step closer to success? However, as he gazed at the grand pill, he hesitated. To break through so quickly, is it really without problem? Where did your 7th grade grand pill come from? And one that can break through the divinity transformation stage? Since when does the Central Lands have such a spirit pill? In the Divine Armament Province, a short, red-skinned, middle-aged man exclaimed. He had a divine ring of 5 flame imprints on the back of his head. He was precisely the venerable myriad armaments of the Divine Armament Province. That heaven, man's second decay venerable, who had assisted the taking great province, reported truthfully. Reporting to venerable, it was bestowed by the spark venerable. All the venerables who aided the take in great province received one. At these words, the eyes of many divinity transformation cultivators reddened. This is a 7th grade grand pill that can break through the divinity transformation stage, worth 100 years of bitter cultivation. Just bitter cultivation without opportunity, let alone 100 years. It's common to fail to break through even until death. The Spark Venerable is too generous, bestowing such a heaven, earth grand pill just for assisting taking. I really want to slap myself. When that female Asura King invited me to aid taking great province, I didn't agree. The 7th grade grand pill slipped right past me. Truly, given the opportunity, and not taking it. A divinity transformation venerable from the Sacred Spirit Province said with a face full of longing, "Venerable Iceheart, please plead for us. Ask the Spark Venerable to give it a few grand pills as well. We are willing to exchange any price." Venerable Iceheart was slightly tempted, but still calmed down and said, "I just cleared up misunderstandings with him. If he doesn't resent me, that's already good. How could he give me face?" Hearing this, the divinity transformation cultivators of Sacred Spirit Province sighed endlessly. Someone sighed, "Ah, if only it hadn't been a misunderstanding." Another added, "Right, since Venerable Iceheart already forced the Spark Venerable to wear the heart ring, why not take it a step further and force him more?" A third echoed, "In that case, how could the Spark Venerable not give our venerable face?" Venerable Iceheart listened, her cheeks slightly red. She bit her red lips lightly and muttered to herself, a group of men together, always fabricating nonsense. Me, forcing myself on Fang Chen, is that even possible? She shook her head, cast aside distracting thoughts, and silently sat cross-legged to meditate. Amidst countless voices of envy and regret, many divinity transformation venerables, who had never met Fang Chen, also came to ask if he had any extra grand pills. They naturally received disappointing answers. This made Venerable Red Dust and Vice Palace Master Yu and others look smugly proud. See how wise they were, following Fang Chen. Every meal had meat to eat. Venerable Myriad Armaments walked over and proactively thanked him. "Spark Venerable, many thanks." How dare Fang Chen put on airs in front of such a great power? Moreover, the Venerable Myriad Armaments before him was the one who had spent a full month of painstaking effort using the most precious extraterrestrial divine stone to forge his evil sword. He hurriedly rose, clasped his fists in salute, his tone full of gratitude. Venerable Myriad Armaments is too polite. It should be I who thanks Venerable for forging this supreme, great spirit sword for me, a junior. Venerable Myriad Armaments' gaze fell on the evil sword on Fang Chen's back. He stroked his long beard, a flash of surprise in his eyes, and laughed. So you found a very compatible artifact spirit, and moreover, you have allowed it to become a growth type spirit weapon that is already beginning to qualitatively change, with hope of breaking through the limits of spirit weapons to become a realm weapon. Really? Fang Chen's heart stirred. He had never paid attention to this matter. He quickly took down the evil sword and examined it with focused attention, only then discovering it was darker than before, like a deep abyss black hole capable of devouring all light. And on the hilt, a faint engraved mark had appeared. At first glance, it bore some resemblance to a sage's carved character, though it emitted no obvious fluctuations of law. Myriad Weapons, Great Venerable, leaned in for a closer look, and couldn't help but gasp in shock, exclaiming, "Markings have appeared. It's not far from becoming a quasi-realm artifact. How long has it been since this sword was forged? How can it undergo a qualitative change so quickly?" Myriad Weapons, Great Venerable, was utterly shocked. Earlier, with just a hurried glance, he only felt the evil sword had undergone a slight change. But now he realized it had actually reached the critical threshold for breaking through to a quasi-realm artifact. But how was this possible? Even if this sword was a growth type spirit artifact, how could it develop so rapidly? Fang Chen pondered briefly and guessed at the reason, chuckling. "It probably has to do with my recent experiences. The artifact spirit can't stand seeing me thrive. My recent narrow escapes from death must have infuriated it. Then I successfully proved the Tao and underwent spirit transformation, fulfilling the dream it had always yearned for, that likely made it explode with rage. Finally, finding out that I've obtained some formidable treasures made it even more furious. As its resentment grows, the evil sword's quality keeps improving." Myriad Weapons, Great Venerable, said in amazement, "Oh, is that really a thing? It's the first time I've heard of an artifact spirit that resents its master's good fortune." After a moment's thought, he flipped his hand and produced a metal iron ball. Though only the size of a fist, it radiated an immensely powerful pressure, clearly a top-grade spirit artifact. Myriad Weapons, Great Venerable, explained, "This is the armor, piercing divine bead. I prepared it specifically for the Gold Giant King with its incredibly tough body. Upon activation, it can breach the defense of the Gold Giant King at the second heavenly decay stage and pierce straight through its body. If it strikes its core origin, it can successfully kill it. Since you bestowed grand pills upon the people of my state, I gift you this armor, piercing divine bead." Fang Chen's face lit up with joy as he received the item with both hands. "Thank you, Myriad Weapons, Great Venerable. With this armor, piercing divine bead, I can at least kill one giant king myself." Just then, the evil sword suddenly trembled violently, emitting an angry hum, as if extremely resentful of its master's good fortune. The sinister aura within the sword was also stimulated, faintly raising its quality yet another notch. Myriad Weapons, Great Venerable's eyes widened, and he blurted out, "There really is such an artifact spirit. This is truly an eye-opener. At this rate, the day it ascends to a quasi-realm artifact is just around the corner." He looked at the evil sword, and a trace of regret involuntarily flickered in his eyes. A quasi-realm artifact, no less. A quasi-realm artifact that he had been unable to forge in his entire life, and it had ended up benefiting someone else. But on second thought, this artifact spirit only reacts to Fang Chen. If anyone else obtained it, the evil sword would merely be a top-grade spirit sword, never to rise to a quasi-realm artifact. His regret gradually dissipated, leaving behind nothing but helpless envy. Myriad Weapons, Great Venerable, sighed and said, "The evil sword's material and the soul that hates you. By sheer coincidence, they merged. Fate decreed that you should obtain a quasi-realm artifact." Fang Chen said joyfully, "It is all thanks to your help, Senior." Myriad Weapons, Great Venerable, laughed. "I look forward to the day it becomes a quasi-realm artifact." With that, his figure flashed and he vanished from sight. Fang Chen stroked the evil sword, his eyes also full of anticipation. "Chen Jing, I wonder what surprise you'll bring me once you elevate the evil sword to a quasi-realm artifact." The response was a sword hum from Chen Jing that was almost a roar, making the very air tremble. Fang Chen laughed heartily, slung the sword across his back, and once again looked at the 7th-grade grand pill in his palm. At that moment, the Fang Mountain 1st-grade pavilion master walked over and warned, "Swallowing this pill now will be utterly useless." Fang Chen said in surprise, "Please, Pavilion Master, enlighten me." Though he had already ascended to the spirit transformation realm, he still knew nothing of its cultivation methods. This was precisely why he dared not rashly consume the pill to break through. The Fang Mountain 1st-grade Pavilion Master, like a senior, sat down cross, legged beside him, and patiently explained, breaking through in the spirit transformation realm is vast, lie different from the nascent soul realm. Apart from the final madness stage, the nascent soul realm can be rapidly advanced as long as resources are sufficient. The spirit transformation realm is not like that. Resources alone cannot lead to swift breakthroughs. Otherwise, the children of sages would have long relied on resources to reach the heavenly man, 5 decays, and dominate the martial world. How would ordinary people like us ever get a chance? The children of sages. Fang Chen's heart jolted, so such a group actually existed in the Central Plains. But on careful thought, sages were human too, with the 7 emotions and 6 desires. Naturally, they had the urge to reproduce. That traitor, wasn't he the descendant of a demon race sage, a true spirit? The resources available to the children of those living sages were beyond what ordinary people could accumulate in 10 lifetimes. If the nascent soul realm weren't blocked by the madness stage, they could likely step into spirit transformation with ease. Fang Chen nodded slightly, understanding dawning. Truly, the dragon begets 9 offspring, each different. Not all of the sage's children are peerless geniuses capable of leaping past the spirit transformation realm. The madness barrier grants all martial cultivators a fairness, allowing ordinary people to stand on the same starting line and compete with the descendants of sages. The Fang Mountain First Grade Pavilion Master nodded approvingly. Excellent inference. Yes, the descendants of sages also have varying aptitudes. The madness of nascent soul stops most dull-witted sage descendants at the nascent soul realm, preventing them from perpetually surpassing ordinary people. This is even more true for the spirit transformation realm. To break through, resources are one aspect, but comprehension is another. Continue comprehending the Tao you walk, grasping new layers, and you can leap over the dragon gate. Only then will you require grand resources of heaven and earth. Every expert you see who has reached the 2nd heavenly decay and beyond has walked a painstaking path, step by step. None of them had it easy. Fang Chen was enlightened. Finding your own Tao in the nascent soul realm was indeed only the beginning. He mused, then what about comprehending your own Tao to its limit? The Fang Mountain First Grade Pavilion Master smiled. That would be the laws themselves. Fang Chen was fully enlightened. When one thoroughly comprehends a certain Tao, one can touch its essence, the law. He pondered, then how does one confirm that one's Tao has reached a completely new level? The Fang Mountain First Grade Pavilion Master patiently said, close your eyes and sink your mind into your dantian. Fang Chen did as instructed. Soon his consciousness sank into the pitch-black dantian. Only then did he realize that while the nascent soul had vanished with the spirit transformation, in its original place there were now 5 altars. On each altar stood a torch. One of them was lit, while the other 4 were extinguished. Fang Chen's consciousness attempted to ascend one of the extinguished altars, but found himself halted before its steps. No matter how he tried to step forward, he couldn't advance even an inch. At that moment, the voice of the Fang Mountain First Grade Pavilion Master resounded in his heart. Those steps are called the God Ascending Stairs. The deeper your comprehension of the flawless Tao, the more steps you can climb. When you traverse all 10 steps, the torch on the altar will ignite, granting you the ability to undergo another spirit transformation. If at that moment you also have the resources to advance your body further, you can step directly into the 2nd heavenly decay. By analogy, advancing both the Tao and the body simultaneously allows you to enter the next realm until the heavenly man 5 decays. When all 5 torches are lit, 5 flame marks will appear on your divine halo. Fang Chen was thoroughly enlightened. He had always wondered where the torches on his divine halo came from. Now he finally understood. When he proved the Tao and underwent spirit transformation, he had lit the torch of the first altar, hence the single flame mark on his divine halo. By extension, each ignition of a torch represents an entirely new spirit transformation. After 5 spirit transformations, one can become a great venerable of the heavenly man 5 decays. At that point, one can receive the merits of heaven and earth and formally become a sage. He withdrew his consciousness, rubbed his temples, and smiled bitterly. Breaking through in the spirit transformation realm is far too difficult. Each breakthrough requires not only a world-shaking grand pill, but also a brand new elevation of the Tao. This is even harder than proving the Tao and undergoing spirit transformation. When proving the Tao and undergoing spirit transformation, at minimum, you only needed the Tao to reach perfection, no special resources required. Spirit transformation is different. It's practically walking the path of proving the Tao and transforming all over again. On top of that, you need to prepare endless resources. He suddenly asked again, then, what if one fails to comprehend a new level of the Tao for a long time? The Fang Mountain, first grade pavilion master said, that depends on your luck. With good luck, you might live to the lifespan limit of the first heavenly decay, 200 years, and die a natural death. With bad luck, like that evil crow venerable, whose domain was shattered, his heavenly decay tribulation activated, his body reeked, and within a year he died a sudden, violent DTH. Saying this, he glanced at Fang Chen's full moon divine halo, a flicker of hidden worry in his eyes. What I described applies to ordinary divine halos. Your ancestral Tao divine halo is so domineering that your heavenly decay tribulation will likely be far more ferocious than that of ordinary people.